Time to fly, time to fly. Never give up, we won't retreat. The ones who stand up.
Hello friends, and welcome again to another Street Fighter Duel video.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. So, for the past month and weeks, I've been asked, what are the best units for bossing? What are the meta units? What can we use? Especially because there's a lot of carries, a lot of buffers, a lot of damage dealers, and a lot of defensive mechanisms in the game, and people are getting confused. Of course, the early teams that we used before are still valid. You can use them, but to increase your scores and to check what is going with the meta and what people are using more and more in boss rush, in every boss event, and especially how to counter every scenario, I will be telling you the meta teams and the teams that you can use and the carries that are valid until now, from the best to the least used, and this is always subjective. You can always change that whatever you want. If you like a unit and you want to make it work, you can make it work. If you don't like a specific unit and you don't want to use it, you don't need to use it. But this is depending on everyone's perspective and what I tested and what we checked in the boss rush and in every event. So without further ado, let's start and let's be talking about the best units that you should have or you should build to use. This is not for free to play. This is not for pay to win. This is for everybody. Whoever built this unit is good. If you're pay to win and you didn't build this unit and you're thinking about building it, there's a lot of options that you can go with. You don't need to spend more money, or if you want to spend more money, that's up to you. Now let's go and check the units, and first of all we're gonna talk of course about the meta teams, which is starting off with the meta lineup, which is this lineup, specifically these four units. Now you can change the assist, but I will be talking about the assist and I will be talking why we need to use the assist. I will be putting the full meta team with their assist up there and I'll be talking about it. So first of all, Fire Adon with Flame Chun. Without Flame Chun, Fire Adon will deal great damage, but you can replace Flame Chun if you are free to play like me in events. Not you can now borrow her just like a mercenary and use her in boss rush to buff this team because it will deal the most damage for you. Now without Flame Chun, you can use somebody like Rose, somebody like any other buffer that you can use their C2 that would help you. Guy works here also as well. We tried Guy. So Guy and Rose are perfect candidates to use in this team. And you can use Fashion Blanca sometimes because Fashion Blanca with his C2 will buff you with Wildfire and will add a little bit of damage because he deals burn damage or flame damage, which will be buffed by the reductions that Rich Honda does to the boss. Now Rich Honda is of course a core main in the lineup, which you start with his combo, you start with his super, so you reduce the damage reduction that the boss takes, so he will go to negative territory, and the more that is your Flame Adon built on attack or any single attack point that he have, the wall of burn that he has will deal more damage. Now keep that in mind. The damage from Fire Adon is not by him going and attacking the boss, it's inflicting the wall with his C3. The wall, if you have a high percentage of attack, the wall will burn him by time for the boss or the bossing units, and there will you hit the higher damage. So everything is related to how much attack you can put on your Flame Adon. There's no RNG. The only RNG here is Flame Chun. Flame Chun, if she deals 50 stacks of flame penetration immediately, or very lucky if you had it back to back and you get the full 50 flame penetration, then you'll deal the most damage with Flame Adon. This is why we retry. Sometimes she doesn't deal except 1 or 2, which is bad, so you need to restart the run. That's the only RNG factor with this lineup, but until now it's the best lineup in the game that deals the most damage, and it's used everywhere as the main lineup. In events, of course, you need a second team, third team, fourth team, who knows, maybe fifth team in the future. They are reducing it to 3 teams sometimes, so I'll be talking about the different teams now. Now, specifically for this team, let's put a separator. These are the main core lineup. Now the assist. The most important assist for this lineup is Fei Long. Why Fei Long? Because he improves or he increases the damage output for flame damage, which is the wall, which is everybody on your lineup that deals damage. Flame Chun or Fire Adon, which is the most important one. Mainly we put him on Rich Honda because Rich Honda needs a little bit of defensive, especially if you're free to play. You can use him at A rank copy or A plus because we had him at A plus in his event. If you didn't, you want to pull him, 1 copy of him works. really awesome unit. You don't need to use Abel on him to keep him surviving. You only need the burst damage at the start and to keep that threshold number high up. Now, the biggest mistake that people are doing is using on Fire Aidon somebody that buffs his damage but not his attack, which is the most wrong thing to do. You don't need to use on him Evil Ryu. If you use Evil Ryu, it will buff his damage, so his initial damage will be buffed. It means when he attacks, but the firewall will not increase the damage output. You need to increase the attack on him. So the best candidate and the best one to use on him is Mayor Cody until now, because Mayor Cody, you have two things. He's flame, so you will continue the flame buff of the faction on him. Secondly, he will buff attack, so you're gonna buff his attack output and then deal more damage. Of course, you can use anybody else, and if there's another unit that buffs attack on assist, it will be helpful. But since he's a flame faction, which will give you a plus 5% to 10% depending on how you're using it. With this faction, it's plus 5% additional attack, which every single point of attack needs for Fire Aidon to deal damage. So Fire Aidon at 5 stars deals better damage than 4 stars, than 3 stars, and it's magnificent. You can see the damage, how it affects him a lot. So keep that in mind. Now, let's talk about the damage dealers in the game and the best damage dealers, and I'll be talking something here and I'll explain why. Now, everybody knows Oni is the best AoE damage dealer after this lineup for any specific lineup, but the fact that they dropped Elena, now I'll be talking about Elena, schoolgirl Elena, why she's dealing or taking the spot of Oni sometimes in some events or some certain bosses. Now, as you know, every boss that we have or encountered in events or anywhere, they have specifically reductions for specific factions against maybe fire, against thunder, or against soul damage. So Oni, when he faces a boss that have the passive that it reduces soul damage taken from any other unit, he will not deal as much damage as other factions, which is like Viper, which is like let's say Akuma, or somebody else that deal damage that is not soul but flame, let's say, or thunder or whatever. But the bosses, when they come and they have this reduction, they reduce it for soul damage, for flame, and for thunder. And the only unit right now that deals so much damage similar to Oni, but it has no condition or no element or faction on it, it's schoolgirl Elena, and she does that with her bag or whatever her kit is, and it's really magnificent. We've seen that. If you want to go check on boss rushes, I think on NA and EU, you can check the high scores and damage dealers, and you check that every unit that I'm putting here is valid to that lineups. So try schoolgirl Elena if you have her, if you purchase her. She's easy to build. You link her up with a 5-star unit. She's 5-star already maxed. You just need to put her to plus 30 or 40 depending on your investment, if you have the materials or not, and get her to 6 cars. Of course, making more cars, making more damage, which will affect her massively. Next, Oni. Now we're talking about AoE damage dealers before we're talking about single target only. So Oni is dealing the most important damage in the game, which is soul damage. Of course, if there's no restrictions by the bosses that says, oh, soul damage is reduced. So Oni is a great bossing unit, and he's the second best in the lineups. If you see in normal lineups that before any units, the meta was, we use the first lineup, the second lineup has Oni. Oni deals insane damage, and you can link him up with other buffers that will make him deal even more damage. Absolutely monster. No more talking about Viper. We're not gonna explain a lot about Viper. Viper, she buffs, she ramps up her damage, and she deals insane damage. She deals thunder damage and flame damage at the same time. So she's a unit that until now, she's one of the best units, which make her a lot usable. Now, Cammy and Vega. Many people ask me, Cammy and Vega, are they good? Are they worth it? Yes, Cammy and Vega are one of the best damage dealers in the game. Why? Not because they just do initial damage, they're non-stop. So their DPS is continuous until the end of the round, or until they get defeated or your lineup get defeated. They cost no energy for your energy bar, so you can go back to back if you start with them, and they deal insane damage. Plus they're trigger, so you can protect yourself with other buffers, somebody like Goken, like Abel's, anybody that can protect them on the lineup, and you can go non-stop with them, and they deal insane damage. Now, let's talk about Dalsim. Dalsim fell off a little bit, especially when Flame or Fire Aidon came in clutch. If Fire Aidon was not there, maybe if playing Dalsim instead of him on the same lineup, because this is what we used to do. Actually, there was no Rich Honda, no Fire Aidon. We're using Summer Elena and Dalsim on the lineup to deal that much damage with Flame or Fire Chun-Li. which was the meta. Now it dropped a little bit, still one of the best units to deal damage, especially when you pair him up with Fashion Blanca. Now, of course, Oni does a little bit more damage with him because there's time bracket. If it's limitless, if there's a fight that is limitless to do damage, of course, he will ramp up to infinite numbers. He will go his stacks to 80 or something like that because he tower and deal a lot of damage. So next, we have Akuma. Akuma is still one of the best damage dealers in the game. He's single target damage dealer that eliminates and deals massive damage dealer. He have good things. Why I didn't put Trendy Kami before him? Trendy Kami is AoE, yes. She deals shock and capitalize on it, yes. The problem is she's slower than him and he's faster than her. Plus he life steals, plus he goes soul damage and he goes burn, which is an absolute crazy for a unit. As you see the charts, he's always there. He has soul power, she doesn't have soul power. This is why he comes in clutch before her and he deals more damage. The lineups that we're using right now is the lineup, the first lineup, the meta lineup. The second lineup is Oni carry. The third lineup we're using Akuma as carry. Sometimes we use Akuma with Kami and Vega, which always work. You can use whichever you want. You can mix them up with Viper. It's a really solid team. Next, we have Kami. Kami, the queen of effigy battles or effigy clash, and she's still up there with the highest damage dealers. We're not seeing her a lot because people are preferring to use the meta lineup and use Akuma because they built Akuma and he deals insane damage actually. Plus Dalsim and Kami and Vega, and you have the typical Viper team, so people are less using her. Still one of the greatest damage dealers in the game. Now, coming up hot, it's a Trendy Akuma. Trendy Akuma is a really good, solid unit for damage dealer. How we're pairing up the lineup that is mostly used and dealing damage more than the Viper team, more than the Dalsim team, is Akuma with Trendy Akuma on the same lineup. They're absolutely insane together. Now, we know that Akuma goes well with Chun-Li, OG Chun-Li, but this is the new meta for Akuma, is playing both Akuma on the same lineup. If you build him, it's a hard investment, I know, but this is the meta lineups. I'm talking to you, I'm showing you what we are using and how the damage are ramping up. Next, you wouldn't believe it, yes, Fashion Ken. I don't know why people are always underestimating Fashion Ken. Since the day he dropped, he's absolutely insane. The bad side about him, you need one assist on him to make him shine. And this assist is Vega. And Vega is an infernal unit that needs a lot of investment so he can buff the Fashion Ken and make him deal more bleed. Still one of the best unit. Once upon a time, he was the best unit in the guild fighting the Zangief, the Metal Zangief or the Robot Zangief, and deals insane damage. Absolutely crazy. Guile, yes, Guile is still here. Guile is one of the good damage dealers actually for two bosses. The Virgil boss and the Nero boss still works with the same meta with Viper and Beast Zangief, which you always will see, especially for free-to-play players. So he's still up there dealing damage, insane unit, especially when we had the Virgil event. Guile was the man that we all capitalized on, and we beat every single whale as free-to-play. This guy helped me be rank 1 in the free-to-play lineups versus these bosses in their events. Now, Virgil is still a good bossing unit. The problem with him, he needs a lot to ramp up. He's a little bit slower. He have the immunity, so you can play him with a lineup that doesn't die when you deal a lot of damage and continue dealing a little bit of damage before they die, actually. And he deals good damage. He's an AoE, absolutely good unit. The problem is he's not available now and he's a really heavy investment. Next, we have Trendy Guile. So, Shade's Guile or Trendy Guile is a really good damage dealer. He's a Thunder faction. He's really insane. He deals tons of damage. Very good unit. The problem with him, he needs a lot of investment as well, and there's better units that you can run. Still, one of the good units for damage dealing. If you build him, you can't go wrong with that. Next, we have Chief Viper. Chief Viper is still one of the good damage dealers. We used her in many bosses. We saw her when she dropped in the game. We used her in many bosses and she shined, but the problem is we forced to use her. There's better options, better units to use her, and she's good actually. She's not as good as the top ones that I showed before, but she's still a good damage dealer. You can use her on the lineup. It's not wrong. Now, Summer Ibuki. Summer Ibuki still, you can make her the main carry of the damage dealing bossing comp, but she's a secondary damage dealer, yet she can be the carry. She's really good. She does a lot of damage. She's a trigger unit, so you can play her nicely on a lineup that uses a super C1, C2, C3, and she's just gonna still idle there and deal a lot of damage. absolutely good unit. She's a good all-round good unit. She's not the top tier, she's not bad tier, she's average, she's good for bossing, so keep that in mind. Junon Ibuki. Now Junon Ibuki is a good solid damage dealer. The thing is about her, she's a little bit slow and she's RNG with her Rin and Ro and To and stuff like that with her buffs. You need her to get the perfect buff so she can deal damage. She's a backline killer, but in bossing she does well, and you need to synergize her buffs with the faction of the legendary so she can gain the extra attack buffs and HP, which keep her at the low end of the boss damage dealing carries, and we're gonna keep her there and we'll not talk about it so much. She's not very much highly recommended. Just keep in mind that if you build her, if you have her, you can use her. She's very situational, but she's good damage dealer. Now, the best buffers and damage dealers in the game, I'll put them right there. They're the three beside each other. Most likely we're never gonna use their skills. Maybe Eva Ryu at the start of the battle you're gonna use his super, but basically they buff the team. A little bit RNG with Gormagala Ken and Bison with their buffs if you get it or not, but it's really good and they buff your team massively. 25% damage amplification is absolutely crazy, and Bison explodes and deal damage. He will deal damage, this guy will deal damage, and this guy will deal damage, and they all have utility for themselves. He deals curse, reduces the damage taken, and increases the damage given. This guy increases the damage given, reduces energy bar for the boss, and this dude Bison keeps exploding, dealing damage, and give you the upper hand on your fights, and he will not die, he can tank for you, even if it's single target bossing that you're fighting. So the boss, if he deals single target damage and can't kill beyond immunity, Bison could tank you there forever and your whole lineup will be safe. Another damage dealer and buffer, which is Fashion Blanca. You can say he can be a main. He used to be a main at the start of the game, but he's not a main damage dealer right now. He's only a buffer with damage dealing. He's absolutely good. Crazy unit actually with his wildfire. Absolutely noticeable. Now, one of the best supports in the game, which is Athlete Chun-Li. Now, Athlete Chun-Li, I'm putting her with a buff plus damage, not only buff, because she deals insane damage. Now, this is not when you build her just to triple S or anything. You need to have her at 6 out of 6 so she can add that damage. The damage that she does is absolutely crazy because she will continuously deal damage even from tag position with her 6 out of 6 cards. Plus, she will buff your lineup with survivability and more damage. Absolutely crazy unit as a buffer and as a damage dealer. Now next, OG Chun-Li. Yes, OG Chun-Li. Now why OG Chun-Li is a damage dealer plus buffer? The buffs of the crit rate and crit talent that she have will give you a battery. She's a battery, full damage with her C3. So you're gonna deal damage with her C3. Not the best damage in the game, yet it's a considerable amount of damage that you're gonna see her ramping up a little bit by little bit, especially when you get her with a lineup that capitalizes on this, and it's a hyper lineup like the lineup using with Akuma. She's really good. She buffs crit rate and crit damage. Plus, she will give you combo meter. Absolutely a monster unit. It's still for now. People underestimate her. One of the best units. You can go to Boss Rush, check her. She will always be on Boss Rush because she's a battery. Absolute unit. Now, Guy. Yes, Guy is an absolute monster. Guy, if you build him to plus 20, there where he shines. He starts giving pressure, plus giving attack, plus crit rate from his own to the unit that will hit with the C3, which make him a little bit more usable than ever. Before we didn't use him, we didn't understand him that well, but he's an absolute unit that could help you, and he deals damage because his C2 deals damage. Not the best damage, of course, the worst damage among these damage plus buff units, but because he deals good damage actually on the lineup, the damage adds. Every single bit of damage can put you higher on the ranks, so this is why he's a good buffer slash damage dealer. Now, the best buffing unit in the game, slash healing, slash shielding, slash everything, she buffs Summer Elena, plus she heals, plus she cleanse, and she's a trigger unit that she can use 2 skills at the same time when you click your super, so she can use her skills and abilities. Absolutely crazy unit. You can use any assist on her that goes with trigger, and they'll trigger twice if they don't have a condition. Absolute crazy unit. We've seen her as the meta unit before the drop of Rich Honda. With this lineup, absolutely crazy unit. Now, Gouken until now is still the best defensive unit in the game, and he buffs with his shields Absolutely crazy unit. You can cheat that with your lineup playing him, and he runs really good. The best combo is playing a carry and another buffer with him and Summer Elena, and you'll deal insane amount of damage. Now, a new unit that dropped not so recently, but it was one of the newer units, it's Suit Abel. He shines everywhere. Everywhere. You can use him everywhere. He's one of the best units in the game. He's even better than the normal Abel because he heals, he deals damage, and he gives you the shields more than Abel give you the shield, and it's for longer than Abel give you the shield, and it's an instant shield. Instance means if you get hit, it doesn't get removed by the amount of hits, by the amount of damage that you take, it's by the amount of how many hits. So if you have 2 stacks of the shield, you need 2 times to get hit for this shield to be removed, which makes him an absolute monster. We've seen him in boss rush more and more, and he's one of my favorite units in the game right now. Now, the new unit that dropped in the game, which is the trendy Gen, which is Taoist Gen, absolute monster. He's a replacement if you want for the meta team. If you're playing right now and you don't have trendy Honda and you somehow summoned him by normal divination or got him from shards or anything, you can replace him for trendy Honda or rich Honda. But the thing is, he doesn't work as good as him. Still a great unit. You can use him on lineups. He deals good buffs, and he reduces the damage reduction for the bosses. An absolute monster. You can run him with Summer Elena and Gouken and use a carry if you want on the lineup. The good thing about him is he have a C2. He can heal. He can buff you. Absolute great unit, and he deals good amount of damage. Now, Abel's still used everywhere. We know Abel. We don't need to talk about him. His shields are insane. This is why we're using him. We can use him. There's a meta team that we use him instead, in the meta team, instead of Summer or Street Poison, because Street Poison can't take the damage, but his shields can make you survive. In the Anoki, I think, in the Guild Crusade. Now, Zangief, the OG Zangief. One of the best skills and the only unit in the game that can shut down passive so far, which is him. Absolute monster. You can use him. You can say he's situational, but not situational, just because the fact that his passive will allow you to survive the flame, thunder, and soul damage taken by the units or the bosses that you fight. An absolute monster. He always shut downs the passives of the bosses. We use him in every single lineup. An absolute unit. He's a must-have, must-build to 6 out of 6. Now, Rose, an absolute buffing unit. Until now, we're seeing Rose being used as an assist, as a support, or as a turret trigger with her super. Rose is one of the good units that you can never go wrong building her, and she's free to play. She's free from the shop. You can build her by time. It takes you almost 7 or 8 months if you're just buying her from the shop, and you're gonna get her to a triple S to build her with 6 out of 6 absolute unit. Now, another new face in the game, which is a Christmas Rufus. Christmas Rufus is a great support unit. I'm putting him lower a little bit because he's legendary and you need to pay for him, but he does the same role as Rose. He does the same role, not the same role, but certain amount of role of buffing as Athlete, Chun-Li, and Street Poison. He does buff, he heals, he's an absolute monster, and because he's built on power, he can tank a little bit. He's a good unit actually for buffing. Now, again, we have the other version of Rose, which is the Diviner Rose. Also good buffer, good cleanser. Not good cleanser, actually, bad cleanser, but she cleansed. If it was lucky for you and you can cleanse the debuffs on you, it will be actually great. She buffs when you get her to plus 30, which is a good investment actually to get her to plus 30 because she buffs crit damage. She's not highly recommended, but she's still a better unit than the other units that we'll be talking about down there. Now, Elena and Summer Yang. Elena and Summer Yang have two different things. So Summer Yang give you defensive with the shields and plus heal you, and you can use him with the C2 to get more combo meter, which is good for him. This is the good thing about him. His C2 and his C1 works. For Elena, she can be defensive with her C2, but you're never gonna use her for her C2. You're gonna use her for her passive and for her C1. Her C1 will heal you. Her passive will give you the defensive and the HP, the max HP and the max defense for your team. Plus, she will give you a buff at the start of the game, which is the combo meter. She will give you more combo meter at the start of the game. Now, if you build her to plus 30, she could put her life at risk coming from the attack position and attacking at certain times. You don't want to do that. You can do that as well because her plus 30 is her super. When she starts, her super will buff your attack. If you don't want to build her like that, build her to plus 29. This is what I recommend for you. I did the same. I built her for plus 29 just for the stats. Now, the best assist in the game, There's no talk about this, the two twins, Yan and Yang. Now, Yan and Yang will give you combo meter. We use them for their combo meter, and they drop into the field and deal a little bit of damage. So you capitalize more damage, not the best damage actually, but because of their assist that gives you combo meter, so it can keep you going and going, and you can do that last combo that you miss in your lineup. Now, which jury? You can use her online. She's versatile. You can use her on main lineup because she doesn't die. She can use a C1, C2, and sometimes one time a C3 after 15 seconds of the battle. And you can use her super if you're stunned or whatever, because we're fighting a unit, I think Loki in the effigy clash. You get frozen, you can use her at any time you want. Immortal, she gets 1 life, and she's absolutely a good unit. But the best thing about her, that she could be on assist, give you life steal, and you can survive more with your carry. Another unit on assist, we only use him on assist, nothing else. Now you can use him on lineup for his C2 or C3, depending on whatever you're using. He will deal good damage. Not the best, but he was once hyped a little bit, but he's still used with Bison. The most unit that he used with is Bison, because Bison drops on HP but not dies, and when he triggers less than 50% HP, he buffs him with attack and makes him deal more damage. Now another assist unit, also Cammy. Until now I use her sometimes with her C3 for lineups, but the best thing about her is you can pair her up with a trigger unit and she will be assisting you, and every time they trigger, she will drop in and deals armor break, which will capitalize with many units will capitalize on it. Especially we're playing her with Chun-Li, because Chun-Li deals more damage when there's more armor break. Now Poison, another assist unit for units that deals thunder damage, like Viper, like trendy Cammy. If you play her on a unit that does thunder damage, every time they deal thunder damage, you can drop her super, or she does crescent wave, which will deal. It can silence, but it doesn't silence bosses. But in other modes, it can silence, but it deals damage, and this what will help you a lot. Now, talking about Makoto. Makoto is a great assist overall. Now, I would put her here in the before Mad Ryu actually, because she buffs your defense, she buffs your attack. When you get attacked, she buffs your defense by 25%. There's a chance, of course. This is why I put her less than him. 25% chance to get a defensive buff, and when you attack, there's a 25% to get an offensive buff, which makes her really solid if you want to use her. And she's a thunder, so you have 3 now units that you can complete the thunder faction. Jury. Normal Jury is a good buffer for anybody if you use her, especially if you wanted to continue Infernal units, because at +3 Infernals, you're gonna get crit damage, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and she's a good unit to buff the attack of any assisted fighter. Now, we have Sakura. Now, Sakura is also a good assist unit, because she's gonna give you this every 12 seconds an immunity for death, and she will give you good stats because her stats are so high, because she's gonna be 5 stars immediately when you purchase her and link her with a 5-star, which is a good unit for support as an assist, especially if you're playing in campaign or story mode. But for bosses, she does fairly good. Now, another unit which is a carry, I want to put him in the damage dealing unit, which is Vega, but he dropped significantly, and there's another option. Now, if you're free to play, he's a damage dealer, he's up here. If you're not free to play and you built or purchased Fashion Ken, he's an assist exclusively for Fashion Ken, and Fashion Ken goes crazy when Vega is built and used on him. That's what I'm gonna talk about him. Now, there's a lot of other units that I can put in assist. They help a lot and makes you deal a lot of damage and good, like with their stats and what they do, like Decapri. Let's say Decapri. Decapri is really good, really solid. You can use her if you want, because she gonna drop in the field and deal a little bit of damage. She gives high stats on your lineup if you're using him or her on an assist unit or an assisted unit, but the thing is that she's not that good to be recommended. Now, let's talk about situational units. And situational, they're not bad. I'm not talking that they're bad as situational. Situational units, it means you can use them as damage dealers, or you can use them as fodders on your lineup. They survive, they don't die. Especially somebody like Sagat. Sagat cannot die. He will trigger Emperor twice or 3 times depending on your lineup and how you play, and he deals good amount of damage with his C3. Now, it can trigger super RNG, it can trigger multiple times, so he can deal insane damage. But the thing about him, he's situational. You can play other units that can benefit you on the lineup. Other than that, his Emperor is crazy and he deals good amount of damage. Now, trendy Dalsim. Trendy Dalsim is really a good unit. Very situational because you want to play him with trendy Kami or Viper or any unit that deals thunder damage. His damage is significant, is really good, and you can see many lineups that we use trendy Dalsim for whoever built him, dealing good amount of damage. E Honda. One of the good units actually to put him in the lineup. If you want to use his C3 to negate a little bit of the damage because he make a wall and range damage will not hit your lineup, that is situational and really good. But the thing is, we use him more and more because we want him to tank, take damage and not die, unless there's of course trigger and go past immunities. Really good unit, situational to use him on lineups. He doesn't deal that much of damage, he doesn't buff you or do anything. The only things that he does which are good is surviving, and the second thing is dealing that wall if you're facing a boss that deals range damage. If it's range damage, yes, I recommend using him and using his C3. Another unit that is very situational, used to be good in many lineups. He deals good amount of damage if you put him as a tank, plus he survives a lot, plus he can silence, but bosses doesn't get silence, so we can't use him as silence. He's okay in damage. He's a tank that deals insane amount of damage as a tank, but not as Fashion Blanca. But he's also situational. If you build him, he's good. You can use him instead of other tanks because he survived. I could say he survived as much as E Honda, but E Honda, it's 100%. For him, it's not a 100%. Now, another situation unit, and she's a B rank unit. Yes, she's a B rank unit. It's Ibuki. If you're playing full bleed team with Fashion Ken and Vega and the other units, you can use her for her C1 and she will deal insane damage, plus her asset or her passive. Her passive is the one that makes bleed, deals a lot of damage and be consistent on the lineup. Very situational, but I'll put her here because I don't want to forget any unit that could help you in bossing. We tried her a lot, many friends of mine tried her, and she worked actually and gave results. Now, another super situational unit, which is El Fuerte. El Fuerte is a good unit. You can use him to inflict more armor break or inflict more bleed for your bleed teams. Very situational, very niche. Another unit, which is T-Hawk. Now, T-Hawk, I will say Guile or Combat Guile is better than him for the dispelling. T-Hawk also for dispelling, very situational, doesn't work a lot. Now, another unit which is situational, I would say none, but I would put him on situational because of his assist. Only for his assist. I can put him in assist as well, but I don't recommend using him as assist unless you want to continue the Infernal faction. But he's really good for taking less damage if you put him on an assist unit. That's it. He doesn't deal or offer more. Now, for stats and very situational, B Zangief. Yes, B Zangief, we're still using him in 1 or 2 teams, which is in Boss Rush versus Nero boss and Virgil boss. But there's a lot of other lineups that are more and better than that. But you can still use him because his stats are high and he gives you speed and he deals this tornado that deals damage, which will put him on a honorable mention here. Same for Gen. Gen, you can use him in assist if you want for his clone, or you can use him on the lineup because he have good output of damage for a unit that you will not mainly use. He's a great unit actually. He used to be one of the best units for bossing as a damage dealer main core carry, but because we have a lot of units now, we're gonna put him that he's honored to be here because his stats are high and he deals good amount of damage. Now, Blanca, normal Blanca, if you build him to plus 30, you understand 100% why I put him here. For the shields that he gives and for the retaliation that he does, and plus he inflicts with his C2. Electric, Shock, which Trendy Kami can capitalize on, and Viper can capitalize on, and any unit that deals electric damage or shock can capitalize on. He's a decent unit, but he's not highly recommended. Same for Mummy Dalsim. Mummy Dalsim deals good amount of damage. Good as good, not very good. So you can replace anybody with them with a different unit here. You can play 2 damage dealers, one that uses C2, one uses the C3 from all the above units that they're up, and you can keep him outside. He's okay on assist. If a unit die, he inflict poison, but it's not noticeable. It's not that good. Decapi, I put her here because you can play her on assist that because of her high stats, and she drops in and deals a little bit tiny of damage, but she's not usable anywhere. We use her sometimes with the Dalsim team when we're using Mayor Cody on the first lineup. We want somebody from Flame faction to continue the synergy of the factions on Dalsim, so we use her because of her high stats. She have high stats. Now, these units are not used anywhere, the units I'll be talking about. I can say that Pharaoh Sagat, we've seen many plays that Pharaoh Sagat was used for his C3. Sometimes you use his super, he gets the clone, he doesn't die, he continue dealing some damage. But his C3 does incredible damage, but he's useless. So this is why he's not used anywhere. The problem is his kit entirely, the devs fucked it up and they didn't know how to build him, and they just scrapped any idea and put it together to create this monstrosity. I like him, his art is nice, his idea and concept is nice, but because they fucked up the illusions and they don't attack, he doesn't do shit. Now, Dante, high potential to be used, his damage is mediocre. I could argue with you that Mummy Dawson deals more damage than him. He's a very situational unit. He's not used anywhere. Same for this guy, this dude. Now, I'll say Dudley is used more than Hugo or the others because Dudley has a retaliation point that if he gets hit, sometimes he can trigger a counter hit and deals more damage. And this damage can add up to your lineup and make you deal a little bit more of damage. The other units are very niche and not used. Their damage is not there. You can use anybody else better than them, and that's it. Why would you have more copies of you? You want to be with the Nun? I can put you with the Nun. You're not used unless you're an assist unit. And that's it for our list. This is not just a tier list. This is a list to show you every unit, their potential, where they're used, what are they used for, and how you can use them. If you have more ideas, you can hit me up on the official Discord in Street Fighter Duel, or you can leave a comment in the comment section. It will be much appreciated. Tell me about your opinions. If there is a lineup that you're using, nobody is using, and you think you're brilliant for using that, I will showcase it on a video. Let me know about the placing that I put there, and if you have any other comments regarding this list. And yeah, that was it for the video.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, we thank you for watching. And as always, stay frosty. Peace.
Time to fight, time to fight.